Policy on Record, a public policy podcast powered by Vidhi Center for Legal Policy through Kautilya Society, Symbiosis Law School, Hyderabad, where we decode public policy for the curious and the critical. I'm your host Aishwarya Nukala, and you're tuned into our very first episode. Today, we're going to be heading straight into the stratosphere. Yes, I'm talking about India's space league. From private rockets to space diplomacy, from missing laws to the Gaganyaan dream. There's a lot to unpack, so let's get started. Joining me today is someone who's been watching this space very closely. Welcome, Professor Tushar Sharma, Faculty in Charge of Kautilya Society, Symbiosis Law School, Hyderabad, and Professor Shruti Singh, Faculty in Charge of Center for Specialization in Aerospace Laws. Welcome, sir. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay, sir. So let's start with a big shift. I'm talking about the Indian Space Policy 2023. So for the first time ever, private players were allowed to operate across the board. Satellites, launch vehicles, ground stations, and even downstream applications. So what do you have to say about this big shift in Indian space policy?
Exactly, Aishwarya. What you have said, when we thought of the word space, so from the, very long time, we have ISRO, right? So ISRO is launching everything. ISRO is our sole cosmic guardian, right? So, from launching PSLV to Chandrayaan, right? So, ISRO has done it all along. But, with this Indian Space Policy 2023, so it brings some changes, until recently, everything like space exploration and everything related to space were controlled by ISRO. But with that policy, now we have multiple space startups. You can think of it like during 90s in telecom we had only one big player. So when we allowed the private companies, so we have seen the unprecedented changes and a very good innovation, right? So like same in space sector also, we have startups like Agni-Cool and Skyroots. they are actually launching the rockets. They are actually launching the satellites, and and there is this Bangalore-based startup called Pixel. Right, so they are revolutionizing the satellite imaging, right? So by this year end, by the end of this year, we have almost 200 space startup in India. So it's a big shift.
Yes, ma'am. That's a big leap. So what do you have to say about this?
The global space economy has been booming, right? If you see global private sector players like Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic, they have been sending suborbital flights all across the space. And we see SpaceX, for example. Elon Musk have achieved sending thousands of Starlink satellites, which has come to a point now 60% of the active satellites are Starlink. Now, see, India's policy where ISRO was at the center, was at the helm, worked for a very long time, but it was not meant to commercially expand as such. Now, with all of this, India had to recalibrate, right? We had to recalibrate how are we going to match the potential that already exists in India. We have companies like Ethereal X is one of the company that has been founded by former ISRO scientists. It's a Bangalore-based company, and that company has been now trying to make rockets which are fully reusable. Now, if you compare it to its competitors, Falcon 9, which have been created by Elon Musk's SpaceX organization, that Falcon 9 only targets to make the boosters reusable, right? Whereas we are looking for a completely making the space a lot more accessible. So this shift that we're looking for in India, we're not only looking to catch up with the world, we're trying to make a different race altogether where we move forward with affordable launches, we move forward with space innovation which was never seen before.
Sir, so how do you think ISRO is responding to this growing startup ecosystem?
I'll say that they are adapting. They are partly competing and partly collaborating with the new startup. But I will again say that the clear policies are key. As ma'am rightly mentioned about some of the global startups. So in their country they have the well-defined rules and regulation. So in India also, I think the time has come we should adopt or we should build our new space policy.
Right. So, ma'am, that brings us to InSpace, the regulatory body that's supposed to, authorize and promote private space activity. So, do you think it's working?
Okay, so the InSpace, which is the Indian National Space, its promoter and the authorization center that was established actually long before the policy came in. So it was established in 2020 itself. Now, if you see the center itself, it's actually a one big stop for promotion and for every kind of regulation when it comes to private sector players in India. Now, if on papers you ask me if the organization is working or not, the center is doing actually a lot more than you can imagine. It's authorizing launches, it's opening up ISRO's infrastructure and facilities for the private players. It's also facilitating funding schemes, which a lot of startups, for example Skyroot and Agnikul that sir has mentioned, have actually taken a very well advantage of in their early push.
Right.
But if you come to the question if it's actually working on the ground, I'd say it's still trying to find its feet. Why? Because there have been a few of the concerns that have been raised by the industries. For example, there is a concern of delays and overlapping permissions. If you take the example of, for example, Starlink, it almost took 2 years for Starlink to get license in India, right? Or there's also a lot of concern with respect to duplication, where if you want to get a license from InSpace, for one project you'll have to go to the InSpace, but also for the similar project you'll have to go to the concerned ministry. That just defeats the purpose of having a single window agency. Then there is concern about transparency. What's the process? How much is going to take for a license to come? So all of these things, it basically puts a lot of uncertainty in a sector which is so capital intensive and time sensitive.
So, you mean while the intent is strong, the
Yeah.
execution still needs some fine tuning?
See, I think the part of the problem here is that InSpace is trying to wear two hats at a time. It's trying to be a promoter and a regulator, right? And for a very young institution, it's a very tough balance to have. So I think what we can hope is, one, it has a more clear legal backing with the Space Activities Bill, then I think we can have a more streamlined and a more mature InSpace as a regulatory body. Yes.
Right. So, sir, even with this growing startup ecosystem, while we are reaching new heights, don't you think we are missing something very crucial down here, like a proper legal foundation? Like, I'm talking about the missing Space Activities Bill. Why do you think Indian Parliament hasn't passed a Space Activities Bill yet?
Ashwara, I mean, it is quite frankly critically overdue because I mean, like we have no clear legal framework on who is liable if our satellite malfunctions and it causes damage, right? I mean, we don't have anything like we don't know that what kind of insurance is mandatory and how disputes are being settled within the space companies, right? And we don't know that who is the true owner of the intellectual property. I mean, that has been produced in the orbit, right? So, I mean, investors also see this as a legal gray area, right? I mean, investors very well know that what they are going into. So, I mean, no investors like uncertainty, right? I mean, if we talk about our competitors like United States and Europe, they have a proper legislation, right? But we don't have yet. So, I mean, this is, this stifles our innovations and growth of the young space startups.
So, we have the launch pads, but not a lot to launch on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a 2025 draft bill due in the parliament. I think the time has come that it needs to be passed urgently for our long-term vision and goal.
Right, ma'am. So that takes us to the Indian human spaceflight mission, the Gaganyaan, which is India's most ambitious attempt.
Yes.
What do you think about this India's biggest pride?
Okay, so Gaganyaan is one of the biggest moment for India, right?
Yes.
It's our first ever human space flight mission. And what makes it even more remarkable is that it's fully developed with indigenous capabilities, right?
Yes.
and now it's officially scheduled to be launched in the first quarter of 2027. And if all goes well, we'll be sending human Indian astronauts per se into the low Earth orbit and bringing them back to the Earth. Right now, if again by the end of this mission, we will be joining the exclusive club of the countries like US, Russia, and China who have successfully achieved this. Now, when I say it's a technologically remarkable thing to achieve, but also becomes a very key ingredient here also is also to look at that it's not just actually a rocket launch, right?
Yes.
When humans are involved in these things, everything changes. Now here it becomes not a test only for the engineering that all of these ISRO is trying to achieve, right? It is a test for the regulation, for law, and for ethics as well, right? When we send Indian astronauts out in the space, we need frameworks for their health, for their safety, we need training standards, medical readiness, we need insurance, emergency protocols, everything has to be there. And we've never had to deal with such a thing at this scale before, right? So I think...
So it's not just a rocket launch for India, but a very serious regulatory stress test.
Yes, rightly so.
Yeah.
I would want to say something.
Yeah.
So if you see NASA, right?
Yeah.
NASA have been sending crewed missions, and they had decades of experience in legal and medical systems, right?
Yes.
In the crewed missions. If you see recently, Subhanshu Shukla, when he came back from International Space Station, he has to be taught how to walk on Earth again.
Yeah.
Right? So it is as basic as it gets. So we have to plan not just to have a legal framework. We need all of these standardizations to be there before we send out humans to the space.
So to wrap up, India's space future is exciting, but the policy architecture still needs some upgrades. We need a functional and empowering space, a past space activities bill, and seamless coordination between ISRO, startups, and the parliament.
Absolutely, Aishwarya. I mean, we are not just launching the satellites anymore, right? I mean, we are just building the space economy, and for that, we need the balance between innovation and regulation. So yeah, I mean, let's see what will happen.
Right. So that's a wrap on Policy on Record, a Kautilya SLS-H Originals podcast. If you like this episode, please follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn and share it with your policy curious friends, and stay tuned. Next week, we'll be diving into the upcoming Digital India Act, where we'll be talking about regulation of your online freedom, data privacy, and algorithm. Until then, stay informed, stay grounded, and keep your eyes on the policy horizon. Thank you.